we've managed to get a quorum, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So I'd like to welcome everybody to the Sunset Committee meeting, and I would like for the members to introduce themselves, starting with Representative Shedd, please.
Randall Shedd, House District 11, Blount and Coleman counties.
Good morning, Carrie Underwood, House District 3. That's the northwest corner in the Shoals area.
Good morning, Robert Stewart, Alabama State Senate District 23, Dallas, Lowndes, Perry, Wilcox, Clark, Monroe, Butler, and Conecuh counties.
Did he leave any of y'all? Good morning. I'm State Senator Linda Coleman Madison from Jefferson County, Senate District 20.
Senator Keith Kelly from District 12, Calhoun, Talladega counties.
I'm Dixie Thomas with the Examiners of Public Accounts.
Zachary Kervin, LSA.
Chris Pringle, House District 101, Mobile.
Mary Ruth Davis, Committee Clerk for Sunset Committee.
Good morning. I'm Margie Wilcox, Chair. I represent House District 104. That's Theodore Tillman's Corner and the Cottage Hill area of West Mobile.
I'm Will Barfoot. I represent District 25 in the Senate, Montgomery, Elmore, and Crenshaw counties.
Sam Gavan, State Senate District 7. I represent Huntsville and Madison County.
Senator Garland Gudger from Coleman, Alabama, Senate District 4, Coleman, Winston, and Marion counties.
All right. Senator Stewart, will you lead us in prayer? And then Gavan, I'll have you do the pledge.
I would be honored. Let us enter a posture of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this day and all the blessings that you've bestowed upon us. Lord, we thank you for the newness of life and to be able to rise again with the belief that the next day will be better than the last. Lord, we pray for traveling grace for all assembled here today, and we pray that you give us a spirit of cooperation. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes, ma'am. Representative Wilcox.
Here.
Senator Barfoot.
Here.
Representative Pringle.
Here.
Senator Coleman Madison. Here. Senator Gavan. Here. Senator Gudger. Here. Senator Kelly. Here. Representative Rafferty. Representative Shedd. Here. Representative Simpson. Senator Stewart.
Here.
Representative Underwood.
I'm here.
Have a quorum.
All right, so first up on our list is the Board of Midwifery, and then Podiatry is on deck. So can we have the Midwifery Board and your representative? I do like for whoever's going to come up and do the talking to introduce your board members and have each board member stand when their name is called, and we kind of like to know where everybody's from too. So y'all come on up and let's get this hearing started. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Laura Reeder. I'm the chair of the State Board of Midwifery, and I'm from Coleman, Alabama.
I'm Noel Lightheart. I'm the former chair, and I live up in Gardendale, Alabama.
We have Chris Megginson from the Tuscaloosa area. We have Christine Leadus, and she's from the Auburn area. And then we have Layla Brown, and she's from the Gardendale, Fultondale area.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead and tell us what you want us to know about your board and how you operate.
Well, our board is kind of small, but we are growing. We've increased licensure by 100% since our last review, but we still have 31 licensed midwives as of now. We've been managing our finances well and operating well. We've only had a few complaints, and those have been able to be resolved. and we're very happy that the way the board's functioning and how midwifery is growing in the state of Alabama.
We had some concerns yesterday that y'all don't have an office or in the storage of your records. So can you kind of give us some information about that?
Sure. Because our board is, because our license is pretty small, we thought that it was better ways for us to handle our finances. When the secretary is only needing about 5 hours per week, she's single, and so her office is run out of her home. It's a home office. She has a security system. She has a designated office space that can be locked, and she receives all of the information there. And because licensures aren't really meeting with the secretary in person, this seems to be a better use of our finances than having a space for so few hours per week.
All right, members, do you have any questions? Representative Shedd, you're recognized.
Out of respect to Representative Simpson, I understand he stayed in North Alabama last night, so he's stuck in traffic. So he always is concerned, and we all understand that when there's no board representation in the geographical area of the Baldwin County area. So if he was here, I think he would point that out to you.
Okay.
Do you have any, did you in the past have any representation from the southern part of the state, or do you have any plans of recruiting somebody from
Stacy. A couple of the board members in the past have been, we had one from Fairhope, and she rotated off. And then we had one up from Florence, and she rotated off. So we try to get the different geographical areas as the new ones, as the vacancies happen.
Representative Underwood, you're next.
Thank you, ma'am. On page 5, the third significant issue talks about initial license for a period of less than 24 months, which conflicts with the board statutes. It's a rule versus the statute. Would you just commit to, just clean that up?
Now you want me to go for it? You can go for it.
Yeah.
So when we were writing up the rules in 2018, we went round and round and round with how about renewals.
Sure.
And we had one of the nurses on the board was helping us and said, well, we really should do it at this time. So we weren't quite aware of how that conflict was going to happen. And because we're so small, we were trying to allow for whenever someone was ready to be licensed to examine that application so that we could increase the number of licensees. And so now, realizing what this has been pointed out to us, that at our next board meeting, this is definitely on our agenda.
That's okay. I just wanted to know to be cleaned up. That's it.
Yeah, we're working on it.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Coleman Madison, did you have a question for him? Okay.
No, ma'am. You mentioned somebody in South Alabama. I thought you said you had somebody in Auburn. Is Auburn not South?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Chairwoman.
Yes, sir, you're recognized.
I just want to say thank you to both of you ladies. Every time I've ever needed information, and sometimes when I didn't need information, you still came by and brought it to me every time. And I just want to tell you thank you for being proactive and educating me, especially, but this board as well. But thank you for what you do, and I just appreciate you having such a proactive approach to this board. So thank you.
I do have one question. Your records, are they backed up someplace that's a separate, other than somebody's personal home? Have you all thought about that? Just in case something happens,
Well, I think that the RDA, they have a copy of everything that they keep, they've told me somehow, but, so besides what's the printed copy.
Okay, as long as they're backed up somewhere.
Right.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about your website and how dynamic it is, or what all you plan on putting on your website. We noticed that you have some stuff on there. So can you elaborate a little bit about your website and how you have it open or for information for anybody interested in your licensees?
Sure. Yes. So our website is a place where the midwives can go to, and they can get all of their application documents and those sorts of things on the website. And then consumers can also go to the website and learn how to file a complaint and that sort of thing. And then we have a list of all the licensed midwives in their area, so you can search by midwife based on location. And what else do we have on there?
All the minutes are on there.
All of the minutes are available to the public on the website as well.
All righty, thank you. Let the record show that Representative Rafferty, would you like to announce yourself and where you're from, sir?
Good morning. I'm Representative Neil Rafferty with House District 54, representing the beautiful city of Birmingham, Alabama, and Irondale, Alabama.
Thank you. Senator Stewart, and then Underwood, you're up.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, for the recognition. Just want to ask, is your board prepared for an influx of increased licensees as we deal with a maternal health crisis in our state?
Oh.
Yes, I would say we are prepared for that. And we see that trend, and there's more and more demand for midwifery in Alabama each year. So if you notice the numbers each year, we're almost doubling the amount of home births that are attended by licensed midwives in the state. So we expect to see continued growth.
And we're also looking into possibilities of having one of the universities in the state open up some sort of program, educational program, so that we can have a way to license more through the education process that way.
All right, I apologize, Representative Simpson, you arrived as well. Could you introduce where you're from? Because we want to know where these board members are from, too.
Yeah, Matt Simpson, House of Representatives, District 96, Daphne, Spanish Fort. And yeah, I know there's not a lot of board members that know where Daphne and Spanish Fort are, I can tell, because of the geographic diversity of the boards.
Well, before you were here, one of your board members very much asked that question for you. They did have a past member that was from Spanish Fort, and one from where else? Fairhope.
Fairhope.
So you were represented, they just rolled off. But
I appreciate
one of your members in your traffic snafu made sure to take up for you.
I appreciate the members taking for this cause.
All right. Do we have any other questions of this board? Shed.
Could I just point out to him that he stayed in North Alabama last night, so he got in traffic problems.
I feel like there's a push to widen 65, and I've heard that somewhere.
All right. I don't think we have any other questions from the members. Thank y'all so much for being here, and we really do appreciate when board members take the time to attend these meetings. So thank y'all for your time and your commitment to maternal health. I just had a grandbaby.
Thank you.
And so I'm all about maternal health and watching out after my daughter. So thank you for your loving care of our citizens. Okay, Podiatry, you're up. Professional bail bondsman, you're on deck.
Good morning, Representative Wilcox, members of the committee. Keith Warren with the Podiatry Board this morning. I'd like to start with introducing our members. We have Dr. Johnny Alston here from Montgomery Pike Road area. If you'll stand, please, as I introduce you. Dr. Michael Hames is from Florence. He is unable to be here. Dr. Brown has a medical procedure that she's recovering from. She's from here in Montgomery. She's unable to attend. We have Dr. Alicia Hill from Bessemer, Tuscaloosa area. We have Dr. Rosemary Kaye from Northport and serving. We have Dr. Tamika Sanders, who is with us here from Birmingham, and Dr. McPhillips from the Selma area. So we have 4 of our 7 members present with us here today. Thank you. Y'all may be seated. We have had some changes in 2023. You passed and extended the scope of practice for podiatry, so we're looking and gaining additional licensees. They're now able to practice in addition to the foot, the ankle area. So we hope that that promotes the podiatrists for coming to Montgomery and coming to Alabama and providing additional care. We were one of the last few 2 states in the United States to be able to have that practice scope, so we appreciate that. Some of the comments from yesterday I want to go over first. The board members, last May, we had new appointments to the board, and we had a member previously, Representative Simpson's from the Daphne area, Dr. Dole served for 5 years. We currently have 2 positions. I confirmed with Mr. Bass in the appointments office yesterday. We have one nomination that is pending over there, but he is from the Birmingham area, so we're trying to fill these last 2 positions for someone that resides in the southern region of the state. So we sent out an email to that. I shared that with Ms. Davis, and so we did send that out, and we're trying to promote those last 2 that are pending, that are expired, for members from South Alabama, and that was highlighted in the email.
Members, you have the copy of that email at your seat.
So we did go ahead and take care of that. The next comment is about the national exam. We do not have a podiatry medical school here in the state of Alabama, so we don't have any scores to present to you for those that are passing those schools or out of state. We are working with the Federation to make sure that we do get Alabama scores for the national exam to be able to report to you, and we will add that to our annual report to the governor as well as to the examiners when asked about that. We did provide the jurisprudence examination score information in the report, but we're working with the Federation on the national scores. But we do not have a podiatric medical school here in the state of Alabama. I did want to let you know that. So we will continue to work and provide those scores for Alabama candidates that take that exam, and it's a 4-part exam. The transfer of the funds over the $100,000 statutory requirement, that was my oversight. We have not submitted a transfer to the general fund in a number of years, and so I went back and confirmed, and I'm glad that the examiners brought that up. Those transfers for both fiscal year 22 and 23 were done on October the 8th, and we have now developed each board individual end of the year and beginning fiscal year procedures, and so the accounting staff and I have added that to make sure that we look at that on 9/30 to what that balance is of the board fund. And we are also transferring from a checking account agency to STARS, and that will be finalized by the end of the month, and the region's checking account will be closed, and everything will be in the Treasury and will be through the State Comptroller's office by the end of the month. So we are finalizing that process as well. The Secretary of State vacancy notices, we went back and searched, and those were not reported. There's a new box now available through the Secretary of State's office that we are able to check and add what the expiration date, and it will automatically populate. So I know that's a finding for many boards, and we continue to strive to come up with a procedure to make sure that is not a finding and that those vacancies are posted, and they have now helped us in adding that indicator box, and so we can check that, and those are automatically populated when the term expires, and so that will notate on the governor's website on the board vacancies as well as Secretary of State's office as well. There was a question yesterday about an expenditures to the Board of Funeral Services. That was previous legal counsel. We have legal counsel through the Attorney General's office now, but that was our previous legal counsel who was on staff at the Board of Funeral Services, and there were several of us that did interagency agreements for that legal counsel, and so that is why we were paying. And I know it's an odd expense from the Podiatry Board sending a check to the Board of Funeral Services, but that was the reason for that expense. But that is no longer in place, and we utilize the Attorney General's office for legal counsel.
So it wasn't any missing feet that you had buried or anything?
No, ma'am, it wasn't.
I'm sorry.
Well, it got a lot of laughs yesterday, so I was like, let me explain why we have an expense to the Board of Funeral Services. So, exactly. No missing feet.
All right. Are you through with your presentation? You're
Yes,
ready
ma'am.
for
Any questions?
All right. Members, any questions for this board? Senator Stewart, you're up.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, for the recognition. This is a comment. I just want to commend you all for your board diversity. This is very commendable. I have a constituent on your board, Dr. Tamiko McPhillips, so I just want to give her a shout out anytime I see my constituents. I'm very grateful for your service to the state. Thank you.
May I add a comment to that? So she came up to me this morning and she said, now they need to know that I practice in South Alabama, that I go to Monroeville and that kind of stuff. And I was like, well, thank you. I'll bring that up if it comes up. So thank you for prompting me on that. But you need to reside in the state of Alabama. So at least they're trying to make sure that southern region's covered. But she does practice in various parts of the southern region of the state, but she doesn't reside there. Thank you, Senator.
That's good to know. Any other members have a question for this board? Representative Shedd, you're recognized.
On page 20, respondent number 2, a letter was sent to 14 complainants requesting their participation in the survey, and 2 participated. And this one looks, it really is a 76-year-old man that got treated pretty, it doesn't look like it was treated very well. I just hope the complaint was researched, and it looks like that it was closed. But if everything is true that he's got in this on page 20, it's just a bad situation. And our senior citizens and children are 2 groups of people that we have more of a responsibility, I think, to look out after than those of us maybe in between. We can fend for ourselves maybe, but when a 76-year-old man gets treated like this, I hope due diligence was taking place in seeing about that situation. Can you tell me anything about it?
I can. We do go through, thoroughly investigate those type of complaints, and there is, of course, one of the physicians, board members that's on the investigative committee that reviews patient records and stuff that we get in part of the investigation, and so it is thoroughly looked into. And there's always 2 sides of the story, so we make sure that we get the physician's response to the complaint as well as the complainant's information. Both of them are thoroughly interviewed, and then all of that information goes to the investigative committee. So it is thoroughly reviewed, I can assure you.
So you have an investigative committee.
Yes, sir.
And then they report back to the full board?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
On a situation like that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And how many is on the investigating committee?
We have 1 board member, the board's attorney, myself, and the investigator.
So you remember the situation probably very well.
Mm-hmm.
It's just very...
They're not always situations where we have jurisdiction over some of the issues, but we do our due diligence to make sure that everything is covered and on both sides, to make sure that if there are any violations, that we do bring those forth to the board and further the process on that. But they are thoroughly investigated.
Well, when you read it, it's pretty disturbing.
Yeah, it is, yes, sir. We get a few of those.
Senator Gudger.
I'd like to follow up on Representative Shedd's, the communication aspect of that. You've got an investigative committee that's on your board. Then from that, you have your findings. Whether there was any violations or not, what communication goes back to this particular gentleman so that he knows, because he says he hasn't been contacted. So is there communication that will go back to him saying, hey, we found these findings, or what happens from there? If you could elaborate on that.
We can, yes. So once they are communicated with, they don't always necessarily like our response, but we do say if there was any violation or anything that would fall under our statute or violation of the podiatrist. And so he should have received a response from us. I will make sure of that, but each complainant receives a response of the findings, the action that the board is going to take, or if the board is not going to take any action and why.
Thank you, Keith.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Members, any more questions before we move on? All right, thank you so much. We appreciate you being here. We especially appreciate your board from taking the time to attend. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Thank y'all.
Professional bail bonds, you're up. Electrical contractors, you're on deck.
All right, good morning again. I would like to start with introductions. We do have one member that's caught at the office is on his way here from Montgomery, but I did want that's Mr. Maxey. He is on his way. I'd like to start with introducing our board chair, Mr. Jimmy Lay from Fultondale, representing the 6th Congressional District. Our vice chair is Judge Spiro Cherigatis from Mobile, representing the district or municipal court judge position. Next, we have the Honorable Carla Woodall, who is the board secretary from Dothan, representing the circuit clerks. Next, we have Chris McNeil, representing the 1st Congressional District from Sims, Alabama. We have Jennifer Collard, who is representing Tuscaloosa and the 7th Congressional District. We have Barry Johnson from Roanoke, who represents the 3rd Congressional District, who is not here with us today. Hopefully he's on his way as well. Mr. Gus Maxey, who is from Prattville, representing the 2nd Congressional District. He's on his way as well. We have Mr. John Vaughn from Anniston, Alabama, representing a state-at-large position. We have Miss Alexis Wooden, who is from Decatur, representing the 5th Congressional District. And they are represented by the Attorney General's office, Ms. Tara Hetzel, and I'm not sure, and Tara's not with us this morning, but they are represented by the Attorney General's office. Leading into some of the comments and the findings from the discussion yesterday, I did send an email to Ms. Davis as well on this regarding the untimely deposits. Once we were notified of the change from the 10 to 14 days to 5 days in August of 2023, we disseminated a memo to the staff regarding that. All fees to the board are non-refundable, but there was a previous practice of waiting if the application was complete before the deposit was made or the background check came back in. Those practices have been stopped, so once the application and the fee is received in the office, it's stamped received, and it goes to the deposit process. We also have a new background check this year that is expediting licensure. And so that process is speeding up, and they submit their application online and make the payments online, and then the fingerprints and additional paperwork is submitted to the office in addition to the payment that is made online. So we have handled that, and that will not be a continued finding regarding untimely deposits. So I was asked to find out exactly what time period that was, but we just went ahead and just made that policy. There's no holding of checks. Fees are unrefundable, and so they go directly into the deposit once they are received in the office. Any further questions about that? The Administrative Professional Services Contract, I know there were some questions yesterday about what all is covered under that. Of course, it covers the Executive Director, Recording Secretary, the investigators, the legal assistant, financial staff that prepares all the budgets, pays all the bills, and operates in STARS. So all of that is covered under the Administrative Services Contract. We are currently in the renewal that has been submitted to the committee for this month, and that was negotiated down 15% from the previous year, and so it went down from $84,000 to $72,000 annually, and that has been submitted to the Contract Review Committee for their next meeting for review. There was another comment made about the employee definition, and I know that's been heavily discussed. We had prepared legislation last year, but we could not obtain a sponsor for that bill. The board still feels strongly, and I'll start this conversation and turn it over to one of them. We don't have a lot of complaints about this. However, when a bail bond, someone is contacting a bail bonds office, you start the bail bonding business immediately when you pick up that phone negotiating that bond. So they want to make sure that whoever's answering that phone, not that they're wanting to make sure that every employee in a bail bonding company is licensed just to make sure that they have a license, but what they're trying to ensure is the individual that's on the other end of that phone is duly licensed and knows and is properly trained in being able to assist that person in the bail bonding process instead of just being someone that's just providing information they don't know anything about. A bail bondsman works 24/7, and so they're not out there beating down the doors and saying, you've got to be licensed, you got to be licensed, you got to be licensed. But the concern is, so we were unable to further define that legislatively. They're still working on that, and hopefully we can introduce that this year. They're just wanting to ensure that whoever is starting that bond process, when someone calls that office, that they're duly trained, licensed, and being able to provide the exact information that is needed and to protect the public and those that are seeking bail bond services. So we don't have a lot of complaints in this area. And like I said, we're not beating down the doors making sure that every employee is licensed, but we want to make sure that everyone that is conducting bail bonding business is licensed and is under the jurisdiction of the board.
Senator Coleman Madison, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Keith, I want to thank you for that explanation because we discussed this, I think, last year as well.
Yes, ma'am.
But it makes sense because in the line of business that you all are in, basically people are calling, it's like a right now situation. Something needs to be done. It's an emergency, immediacy kind of thing. And when someone answers the phone, again, it's like insurance. If you're calling that insurance agency and you need something or you need some answers about something, if the secretary is answering the phone and she's not a licensed person, she may know the answer, but she's not licensed to give that information out. But the question that I have is if there are other people that are in the office that are also fielding the calls, is there I guess it goes back to job description and pay discrepancy, and I know that's a board kind of thing, but I was just wondering how is that separated out from a person that is working there on a regular basis? So, well, okay, we're just adding this onto your duties and responsibilities.
I want to let one of my board members that's a bail bondsman that's better answer that question and the process and how they train their staff.
I'll step up. First, I want to thank y'all for what you do to regulate our boards, and I know that y'all's primary goal is to serve the citizens of the state, and I thank you for that work. I can assure you that our board is focused on that same thing, serving the citizenry, protecting the citizenry from bad actors. But to answer your question, Senator, in a bail bond, we're not aware of any bail bond that really uses just an answering service that forwards these calls. Generally, everyone who's answering the phone at any time of day is immediately, they're answering and saying, hello, this is AAA bail bonds or whoever it is. So and our definition for who is regulated under the statute is anyone who holds himself out to be in the business of bail bonds. So naturally answering the phone, you're saying I'm in the bail bond business. And then they're addressing, what the individual who needs help's name is, what their charges are, whether they're a bond set or not. So they're reviewing court records to see if there's actually a bond set. I think in that specific situation, if there were just how may I direct your call, someone answering the phone, I do not think that we would try to have that individual licensed. I just think the reality of the industry is that's not happening. But we did hear, we did try to address this legislatively. We weren't able to this year. We still think that's a priority, even though this finding was deemed resolved. We did update our rules to further specify that we are only regulating people who are engaging in that business, people who are interacting with the public. We do wish to continue to clarify that through legislative action, so we will continue to pursue that.
Well,
any other question?
No, it's just as a follow. I understand now, and you may not necessarily need to change because you all know your industry better than I do and what you do on a day-to-day basis. And maybe I don't know what your job description says, but and Madam Chairman, I don't know how we get around it to address it unless it's something that is put in your rules and regulations as far as hiring practices, that this is a part of it and you are considered a part of the business, so that it clarifies, I don't know, to kind of, so that you won't be in violation of anything. Maybe somebody can come up with better.
I serve as a judge, and I was not involved at the early stage of defining the business, how it was defined in the statute, and it's kind of broad, to me, that anyone who holds themselves out to be in the business. So I think that we could. And
maybe say this includes.
Yes,
to basically clarify it.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I think that's needed, and we'll certainly continue to pursue that.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Representative Simpson, you're recognized.
Your Honor, thank you for being here today. This report is light years ahead of where it was last year. You need to be commended for that. Ms. Woodall, you should be commended for that. I will tell you both, without you guys' effort last year and the pitch that you made last year, this board, I would have voted to sunset it. But because of the efforts that you two and the board has made, you guys should absolutely be commended and take this as a badge of honor for the efforts and the steps that you've made from 1 year ago today. So thank you for the hard work and the effort that you put in to make a difference, to make this board better. And it is, again, this is exactly what this committee is supposed to do to get you guys where we're all working on the same page for a good result. So thank you all for being here today, and thank you all for your efforts.
I truly appreciate that, and I do want to turn the mic over to Ms. Woodall, who has just been an incredible member of this board. And I do want to say that thank you for giving us this chance, because this industry, and I want to clarify, this industry does serve the public. You know, there are a lot of people who find themselves in a bad situation and need an opportunity to really pursue their defense. And so bondsmen truly do serve the citizenry, and they serve the court. The number of people who come back to court, if they're on a bond and they have a bondsman helping them get back to court, is light years better than people who are just released on signature bond or some other release. And I want to say, truly thank you for giving us another chance, because getting this industry regulated, I think, was extremely important. While many bondsmen were doing the right thing and they were following the laws that were on the books, not having felons engaged in the business, that law was on the book for years. It was being ignored by a large percentage of the industry, not by most, but by many. Many were doing the right thing always before this board was regulated, and it's really the people who were doing the business well and correctly were the people who really promoted this regulatory board to try and get everyone else in compliance. So we were finally able to begin to regulate that previously unregulated industry, and it's really thanks to y'all giving us that opportunity to correct our issues, and I certainly thank Representative Simpson for his recognition of that.
Senator Barfoot, you're recognized.
I kind of want to echo what Representative Simpson said about putting the board in a better position. Certainly the report itself looks a lot better than I think it did the last time, so I want to commend you on that. I did want to ask, be interested in your thoughts. I saw on the questionnaires there were the impediments or the facing the profession in Alabama. It ranged anywhere from pretrial releases, signature bonds. So kind of, the judges not making defendants post a bond of any kind, maybe other than a signature, to the opposite end of the threshold, which is requiring cash bonds. So totally different perspectives there on the questionnaires. And then I did see, it says the threat of Alabama, the attack on cash bond and misunderstanding the objective of bail. And as I understand it, obviously the objective of bail is to ensure that those individuals who are released do in fact come back to those hearing dates and ultimately the trial dates. Is forfeiture-wise, what does that look like in the bonding companies? Is there a significant number of forfeitures?
Well, I would be happy to answer that. I think our circuit clerk may be best to answer that. We certainly have them. They happen, and we, in our jurisdiction, we certainly hold bonding companies accountable to those individuals that they bond out and do not ensure that they return to court. A lot of these folks are obviously arrested in other jurisdictions, and there are things where bondsmen are relieved from their duty, through holds and things like that. But we certainly have them. I think in this business, you're not going to get it 100% because, some folks just don't want to come back to court, and they'll do anything they can to avoid it. But our bondsmen, I think, are doing generally a great job at speaking from my jurisdiction and getting folks back to court. But you handle forfeitures, don't you?
Let me rephrase that, I guess. The FTA portion of that equation, you try to assist them or make sure that they show up, but when they don't show up, what are those forfeitures of those bonds? Are they on the increase, decrease? What have y'all seen about that from the court system?
For trends, I'll ask Carla. I do keep an eye on those. I get a yearly report on the number of forfeitures. I would say generally they've been on the decrease. Now, have FTAs been on the decrease? I can't say that. You know, I do think that signature bonds and some things, they have their place. They have their place. There are some folks that, frankly, the cost of holding them in jail is not, you know, it's not sufficient, and we have to give folks chances to get back to work and defend themselves in their cases. So we do, as a judge, I do utilize that tool. We have pretrial services and other community corrections, things we can do to help people get out, but continue to be monitored. So I won't speak on the overall trend, but I think Carla may be able to.
And please stand close to the mic.
Okay. I think it's important to understand that when there's a FTA warrant issued, at the same time a conditional forfeiture is issued. And most law enforcement agencies do not have a separate division to go out and actively seek to execute those FTAs. That's the beauty of bondsmen. They go out looking for their client to bring them back in. During that time period, every jurisdiction is different how long they allow that bondsman to look for that defendant to bring them back in. If it's done timely, and that's a broad definition by each judge, they can set that forfeiture aside. Or then they can make it final if they don't find them or they don't find them timely. So, you know, it makes a difference. There are justified reasons maybe why a defendant's not there. The bondsman goes out and finds out they're in the hospital. They were sick. Notice did not get sent. Various things for a forfeiture to get set aside. So I think conditional, you would find the numbers conditional forfeitures would be relatively high as compared to final forfeitures. Every jurisdiction does it differently, and we don't have control over that of what judges do for those forfeitures. As far as bondsmen go, I can tell you my experience has been the last thing they want to do is have a forfeiture. So if their client doesn't appear as they promised they would when they posted their bond, they go looking for them. And that's the other reason that this industry needs to be regulated, because they come and get a bondsman's process, which is their ticket, which is like a warrant. We have more arrest powers to go get this individual than law enforcement at this point. They are acting as recovery agents to bring them in. So that is a big reason for this industry to be regulated, to make sure that rights are not violated of the public. So I don't know the exact numbers of forfeitures, but I can tell you I don't think they're on the rise at all, if that answers your question.
And it's probably more, I would like to have a more in-depth conversation about this at some point in time with whatever board members are willing to. I would just also say that there's been some discussion about not allowing bonding companies to finance bonds, and that will be a part of that discussion. So
I can understand that, and I will point out there is an issue we are finding. You have a professional bondsman and you have a surety bondsman. That gets really confusing. A surety bondsman writes under an insurance company, and they present powers with the bond. A professional bondsman can either post a $25,000 CD or a surety bond. So that gets really confusing. You can post a corporate surety bond, but you're not a surety bondsman. The corporate surety bonds, they post one $25,000 corporate surety bond that lasts them with the company. They don't have to renew it. It just stays. That is very difficult to collect on when there's forfeitures. And we find businesses or individuals who want to quickly open up a business to be a bondsman. They come in, they don't even know the difference between a bondsman and a corporate surety. They go get that corporate surety, they post it a year, 2 years later, they've bonded all these people out, and they go, I don't want to do this anymore, and they walk away. Well, then you're stuck. So we believe, and I believe, I can't speak for necessarily the board, but I believe the association is of a concern to continue allowing bonding companies to open under corporate sureties. So, you know, you do have an issue. You know, you have somebody, you got to be able to collect on that collateral if that bond is made final for the full amount, and that's hard. But you also want to make sure you don't have defendants sitting in jail and making sure they're able to post bond. That's important as well.
Thank you. I look forward to having conversations.
I'm welcome. And I do want to add, 2 years ago, our audit was embarrassing. It was very bad. We were in very much a learning curve. We'd had changes in our membership. We'd changes in our leadership. And we actually called the examiners and asked for an audit because we knew that there were issues. We came before sunset. We were given 2 years, but yet we were brought back after 1 year. And I stood before you and said, y'all knew we needed 2 years. We've done work, but we need another year. And I promise you, if you give us another year, we'll come back and we'll celebrate with cupcakes to show that I am true to my word.
That's cupcake.
Cupcakes with an American flag. The deposit issue, they would have been really large cupcakes if we'd had no findings, but they're just the regular size. But that one finding, it was brought to our attention. There were some things just in processing that we did not completely realize. We've resolved that. We're going to online processing, so this should completely resolve that finding. But I can tell you the past year, we've not only held our licensees accountable, our executive director accountable, his staff accountable, we've also held each other accountable. We've self-reported when we needed to. We've had contentious meetings the past year. We've walked out, thankfully, with no hard feelings, but at least I hope. But we come before you thanking you for last year, thanking you for forcing us to do what needed to be done, and this is when the system works. So we appreciate it, and thank you.
Representative Simpson, you're recognized.
Can we just make sure those cupcakes are under $25?
$22.83. I have the receipt. They meet ethics. They meet ethics.
You don't get to eat them all, Simpson. Madam Chairman.
And they're in individual containers, and there's forks and napkins too.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Coleman Madison, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just want to say thank you for your comments. First of all, when I first got to the legislature, I didn't quite understand Sunset Committee. It seems like it was just something that was held up, us getting to the bills that's passed these laws that we got. But the longer I've been here, and I had the opportunity to serve on Sunset, and I've been here for a while, I really appreciate the process. I appreciate the learning that I have gained because, and as I try to educate citizens, especially those people that, well, Sunset Committee affects everybody, what we do, the boards and agencies, what you do. You are the business of Alabama. You keep Alabama going and keep people working. And so it's very important when people volunteer their time and efforts and resources to serve on these boards. But it is very important because once you all sit on the board and people will call us about issues, the rubber meets the road where you are. And you affect all of Alabama in everything that you do, whether it's health related or nail or garage, whatever. So I just want to thank you for what you all do, all of you, in helping us to educate. And really you make me feel better today because sometimes I know it seems like we come down on you all kind of hard, but I remember that situation when, and we were all wondering, you know, we were going to sunset you guys, but you took the constructive comments that we made to heart. To the board's credit, you all have worked hard and come back. To the credit for the citizens and the benefits of those that you serve. And I saw this little note, I just sent it to the professionalism. I said, send a note to the mayor. I said, you need to look at this. Because again, it impacts everybody. So I just want to thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you for indulging me with those comments, but thank you.
We appreciate your comments and thank you. And you're right, as a circuit clerk who has to undergo audits, I'm a believer in it. I'm a believer in transparency. While nobody likes it, nobody wants to their errors to be pointed out.
It's better.
It makes it better, and that's what our system is about.
How many more boards are you available to serve on?
Between circuit clerk, absentee voting, and bail bonds, my plate's full. And my husband might not let me come home if I obligated anymore.
Is on your pass-fail rate, is this an open book exam?
No, it is not.
No. I can tell you that the examination is given after the class, so everything's very fresh on their minds. We have reviewed the test. It was going to be reviewed again. And at this point, I don't know, Jennifer is the one that essentially administers the test.
Yeah, they have an online portion they do, and then we require an in-person. So where they get their ethics in person.
There's no way anybody can hear you. Somebody's got to repeat what you're saying at the mic, or you need to stand up, please.
Yeah, I'm sorry. They have an online portion they have to take, and then they have an in-person class that they also have to take. And then afterwards, they take the state exam. And it's not open book, but their ethics is in person.
Thank you. Any further questions before we go on to the next board? All right, thank y'all so much, and we really appreciate you taking the time out to come and attend. I know you all have busy schedules. Go back and do the work of the state. Thank you. And we'll enjoy those cupcakes for our lunch break. Thank you so much.
And it's not a bribe.
No, we don't take it as that.
I just want that clarified.
Thank you so much. All right. Electrical contractors, you're up. Speech pathology and audiology, you're on deck. And I'll repeat, introduce your board, have them stand up and let us know where they're from too, please, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. While we wait on everybody, I'll start. My name's Tiffany Lovelace. I am the current executive director of the Alabama Electrical Contractors Board. I am also the active director of the Alabama General Contractors Board, and the two agencies enter into an interagency agreement effective September the 15th, and I took over day-to-day operations October 1 of this year. So just to kind of clarify where they're at, there may be some answers that I don't have for you, and it's not because I don't want to answer them, I just may not have them. With us today is going to be our board chairman, Sean Rogers, out of Geraldine, and then Jeremy Ashley out of Dora, Johnny Grimes out of Pell City, Mr. Theodore Blunt out of Mobile, Robert Lamborn out of Alex City, Ben Freeman out of Huntsville, and Mac McCreelis out of Town Creek, and then we also have Hendon Cootie, that is the board's legal counsel. I know there was a lot of discussion on this board yesterday, so I don't want to belabor any issues and go into a big spiel about what the board does and what answers I may or may not have. So really, I'll just open it up for questions from you guys and try to answer them as best I can.
Representative Simpson.
I appreciate your candor. I understand the position that you are in. The person who was monitoring this board and responsible for this board didn't stick around for this question, and that's, not surprising to me. Y'all can all be seated because we may be a minute, if the chair will allow me.
Certainly.
You heard the discussions yesterday.
Yes.
And we've got some people in here who weren't involved yesterday or who may not have seen what all happened yesterday. I want to get everybody up to speed. Specifically, the significant issues that have gone through. The first significant issue that came up was failure to ensure compliance with a code section. Retiree received multiple payments above and beyond what they should have given under the statute of code. Section 2 was that receipts were not executed for 11 property items totaling $99,000, over $99,300. Significant issue number 3 was incorrectly coded $13,000 as an examination fee and $2,500 in licensure fees. They kind of got those backwards. where we're running into and where we really got into the meat of the conversation yesterday started with significant issue 4. The board purchased a Tahoe of $32,500. The intent, and tell me if I'm wrong, please interrupt me and say, no, you're wrong. You're not wrong. You're wrong on this. The intent of that was, since they purchased the Tahoe, that would save money for the board paying mileage, so that way they would not have to pay mileage to go through, or that was a resource that the board could use for their investigators, for the staff to do what they needed to do. Is that correct? I see somebody shaking his head no. Come on up. We're going to be here for a minute.
Yeah, I understand. I watched the video yesterday. Thank you, and I would like to say thank you to each representative senator for allowing us to be here today. I was able to watch the video last night on the discussion, and thank you for your comments, and thank you for your diligence in trying to make this right. That's where every one of these board members are coming from. They're coming from a place where we want to be a part of something that's right and not wrong, so that's why we're here. And also, I feel like I'm behind the 8 ball because I did not bring cupcakes, so I apologize for that. But there's always hopefully next year. So in the question of the vehicle, we only found out about the vehicle. The vehicle couldn't have been purchased for our investigator because we only found out about the vehicle just a few months ago when we actually were starting to ask questions of what's going on with all these. We heard comments and questions that were coming to us behind the scenes, and so we started digging in and asking, and we actually reached out to the was it the comptroller's office? Who did we reach out to? We reached out to somebody about our properties.
The state auditor's office.
The state auditor's office about our properties, and that is when we found out that we had a actual vehicle that was purchased in our name that we had no idea about. So to answer your question, no, that vehicle was not purchased for the investigator. He was actually using his own vehicle to do all the investigating. We had no idea we had a vehicle sitting in that parking lot. And just so to make that clear too, when we come every other month to meet as a board, the vehicles in the parking lot are all, we assume, either board member vehicles or employee vehicles of our previous board manager. So we had no idea that we even owned a vehicle. So sorry to be so lengthy with that.
No, that's fine, and that's the whole purpose of this conversation. And I'm trying to be mindful of everybody's time today, but some of this stuff is really important, and the language of what we're talking about is important. So you're telling us the board had that vehicle purchased in the board's name without knowledge or advance notice or any awareness of what's going on with the board?
That is correct, sir.
Who purchased that vehicle?
The management service company.
You're being really nice right now, and I'm not.
Smith Warren is our management service company.
Thank you. Okay. Now, so they purchased that without the board being aware. The use of it went on without the board being aware. The board had no knowledge, advance notice, or anything about. There was no vote taken by the board that vehicle was purchased.
That is correct, sir.
And that was purchased using board funds in the board's name without the board being aware.
That is to our knowledge, yes, sir.
All right, thank you, sir. On to point 5, significant issue number 5. This is, and you can answer this too, whoever wants to be the one, and tell me if I get wrong on this situation, because I'm trying to make it clear for everybody to pay attention to. The board had a contract with the management organization, Smith Warren Agency, correct?
Yes.
For $510,000 a year.
Yes, that is correct.
Which is $42,500 a month.
Yes.
As part of that $42,000 a month, they agreed to executive services for $10,000 a month, administrative services for $15,000 a month, financial services for $7,500 a month, office and equipment for $5,000 a month, and investigative/legal assistance for $5,000 a month. And that comes to the $42,000 that you had, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So on top of the executive services for $10,000 a month, and I'm really bad at math, so $10,000 a month is $120,000 a year. $5,000 a month for investigative/legal assistance, which is $60,000 a year of that $510,000 that they have a year. They charged an additional fee to the board for an investigator for $30,868.53.
Yes, to our knowledge, yes.
And that was outside and above and beyond the contract that y'all had already agreed to.
Yes.
Did y'all agree to the $30,868.53 for the investigator?
Yes.
Was that a board vote that was taken?
I think it was not like a yearly vote. I think it was just something that has been in place for a long time. It was not like a yearly vote. Is everybody okay with that statement? Yeah, it was something that had been going on, but there was not a vote this year to vote for the investigator to make this certain amount of money.
Okay. But that's more than what the contract, that's in addition to the contract that y'all just ended up giving this money to the management organization for fees that they've already billing you guys a monthly fee for. On top of the personnel costs for an investigator for that $30,000, you also paid an additional personnel cost totaling $44,430.47 for a policy director / state government liaison.
That is correct. And to go back on the investigator, we were not aware until the course of the last few months when we started digging into some difficult questions about the payment of the investigator. So I want to make that clear. And to the government liaison, what was the other title that you gave?
Policy director / state government liaison.
He was brought to the board, I remember the day he was brought to the board and said, hey, we need this guy, and he can't make more than $37,000 a year, and he's going to work for us as a government liaison, and we really need him to be on the forefront of what's going on down at the State House. That's how it was said to us, and we voted it in that day.
Who does that guy work for?
Who does the government
liaison work for?
I don't know who he works for now. When we asked this question, he immediately resigned.
Who's he?
Alva Lambert was the government liaison.
Albert Lambert was the government liaison. Is Albert Lambert associated with Smith Warren?
I do not know.
Okay. The investigator, what was the investigator's name that got the $30,868?
The investigator is Mike James.
Is he associated or affiliated with Smith Warren?
I can't answer that. I know that he works for our board, but I don't know if he does investigating for any other boards with Smith Warren. Can you answer that?
At this time, he does not. He resigned from from Smith Warren. Anything he was doing for any of the other boards that are managed by that company, we are his only employer at this point.
Hang on. When did he, at the time that, for the past year, did he work for Smith Warren?
He did investigations for multiple boards under Smith Warren, yes.
Under Smith Warren's, okay. So he's an investigator affiliated some way, shape, or form with Smith Warren, that Smith Warren came to you guys and said, we need more money for you guys to pay for him.
I can't speak for that.
I don't know if I can answer that. I mean, we just knew he was working for us. I don't know who else he was working for. He was always at our meetings and always would bring the investigative reports to our meetings.
You see the confusion and the issue that I have with this, in that y'all are already paying this much money for investigators.
We were, yes, sir.
You were. You have a contract to pay this much money for investigators, and now someone's coming. I mean, it's a public services contract. They're telling you, if you pay us this is what you'll get. These are the services this organization provides. And then they come to you and say, oh, by the way, we need an additional $30,000 plus for an investigator. And oh, by the way, we need an additional $44,000 for a policy director, state government liaison. You can see how the contract bid process, when you bid for an executive director or you bid for some of these services, appears to be manipulated when you have these things that are additional fees that come to this industry.
Yes, I agree totally. Yes, sir. There was a level of trust there that we felt like we were we felt like we were in good hands, and then when we started asking questions, we realized that it was a situation where we felt like we were getting taken advantage of. So we've changed the management service.
One more question, and I'll be done, Madam Chair. The money that you receive, and I want to make this point and let people understand this, the money that you receive comes from the fees, the licensure requirements that you have from electrical contractors.
Yes.
It's not a negotiable, it's not a question of I'm just not going to pay it. If someone wants to feed their family, if someone wants to be able to bring a paycheck or to do their job, they have to pay these licensure fees.
Yes.
So you're taking, not you.
Yes, sir.
Understand, this is the collective, what's going on.
Yes, sir.
Money was taken from hardworking business individuals, hardworking electrical contractors, to the extent of $510,000 was not enough to do their job, that they needed to take a little more above and beyond. And when I say a little more, $82,261.96 above and beyond the $510,000 that they contracted for. Above and beyond the vehicle that they purchased that they didn't tell you guys about.
Yes, sir. It's disappointing and appalling to every one of these board members. It is not what we want to be reflected by, and we feel like we've taken action to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Look, I have worked with your new executive director.
Yes.
I have no issues with your new executive director from what you have to go through from this. But the point that I want, and the people that are in this room and the people that are reporting on this with cameras and with the media especially, this is our job to be good stewards of, I know they're not technically taxes. I know they're not technically taxpayer money, but they're fees that people have to pay in order to do their job. And it's our responsibility to be able to make sure that their money goes to what it's supposed to go to. And so that's the concern that I have. That's my issue with where we are. We have people taking advantage of other people's money to just throw it more into their pocket, into their association.
Yes, sir. And to be clear, we feel like we have corrected this situation.
Well, let me say corrected, just so I know. Has there been a check written for $82,261.96 sent back to the Electrical Contractors Board from Smith Warren Management?
I don't know the answer to that.
Thank you.
Representative Shedd, you're recognized, and then Coleman Madison, you're next.
When did you make the change in that you're talking about?
October 1 is when Director Lovelace became our director.
October 1 of
2024.
2024.
Yeah, the transition just took place.
Okay, so it's just real recently. Okay, thank you.
The process started in about June, July, but it was a huge undertaking for us to make that move. As Representative Underwood, I appreciate you pointing that out in yesterday's video.
Coleman Madison, you're up. Senator Kelly, you're next.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Sir, I want to ask you, this is relative to boards, I guess, awareness of things. Financial reports, did you all not get a financial report? Did it not show up on any financial reports about the purchase of the vehicle or the contracts?
No, it did not. Oh, the purchase of the vehicle, we didn't see anything about it to be able to raise the question.
So, and let me understand, I understand that there's, when you say trust, now I can understand where you get into a situation where you trust people, they have the oversight, and if it's not there, you don't know to question because it's not there. So what kind of authority have you all delegated? And that may not have changed, but what type of authority, financial authority, rights does the executive director have as far as day-to-day operations, holding the purse strings, writing the checks? What authority to make decisions, I guess, without your knowing? Or
I believe it was anything under $5,000 they could purchase and then let us know. Anything under, is anybody, was that right? Under 5,000, we gave him the ability to make a purchase, but we still expected to know about what the purchase was.
This is well over 5, and that's your rule that you have now, and that was in place at that particular time.
Yes, is that our rule? It was in the RFP. Thank you.
I guess it goes back to the question of, have the money been repaid? This contract fee that you had that said was already in place, it's not something that you all approve from year to year. Do you know how long it's been in place?
The contract?
Well, fees that were included within the $500 and some thousand that was already included, but then there was a separate contract. And you said, well, the question was, did you all have to approve it? You said, well, this was already in place, and so it was not something we approved year to year.
It is a year-to-year contract renewal. I don't know. I don't think we ever questioned the or actually talked about, discussed the investigator's salary not being a part of that. It was not something that we came to realize until recently, when we started, over the course of the last few months, started really digging into how do we have a vehicle we didn't know about? How was this government liaison being paid? Why did he come in here? So we started asking a series of questions, and that's when we found out that, wait a minute, we're paying for we're being double dipped on.
How long has this contract been in place now?
It's a 1 year.
I mean, it may not be in place now, but how long has it been in place?
It's a 1 year contract.
You're talking about the investigator's salary?
Mm-hmm.
To the best of my knowledge, the investigator has worked for the board as an investigator since probably the last 15 years. So he's been an employee. So I don't know how that stuff started, and I don't know that any of these people do, because none of them were there.
Was it under the same type of arrangements?
He is a retired state employee.
Okay.
So he is being paid through the personnel department. It is not a actual contract like the RFP that they had with management company. He is actually a retired state employee that was working for the board.
But who pays him?
The board paid him.
Okay.
And then he is still a retired state employee, and he's still working.
Okay, I understand that, but I'm just saying, I'm trying to connect some dots.
I got you.
Here.
Yes, ma'am.
May not like necessarily where it looks like it's leading, but 15 years, that's a long time, and this was supposed to be included in the current contract. That's just a huge red flag for me. Now, I know one of the things that the board has done, you've got a new executive director, which is great. What other corrective measures have you all thought about? Because to help you stay on top of things, to be more transparent, so that it doesn't look like, because yesterday I'm like, was the board asleep? I know y'all heard my comment, so I'll repeat it since I'm the one that did say it. So I just want to make sure that you all stay woke, but I want to know what measures you're putting in place to ensure that.
The measures that I'm going to put in place is we will have very detailed financial statements, and I'm going to work with them because I know I have to build the trust of this board. So whether that's every meeting, whether that's quarterly, whether they want me to send them something monthly. So on the financial side of things, we will break down every penny that is received, that is spent, everything like that. And they have a policy of $5,000 or more that they want approval on. I am probably going to anything over $1,000. This is what we're looking at. Does anybody have any issues with it? Get some feedback from the board, make sure there's that transparency there. I know there's some concerns or there's some issues in here on rules, so I'm proactively working with that. I've had discussions with the governor's office and members of the legislature on what we need to do as far as reappointments, how we need to do that. Let's get that ball rolling. Let's get the ball rolling on any legislative changes where there's anything that contradicts, or maybe we need to clarify some language. So I'm trying to work as much as I can to kind of get ahead of that type of stuff. I'm going to, which they didn't realize, they're going to realize now, probably the first quarter of next year, we're going to schedule basically like a working session and sit down, comb through all this stuff, go through all this stuff. I've talked to other industry-related boards. You have a plumbers and gas fitters board, you have a HVAC board, home builders, stuff like that. And so I've been in conversations with those boards about, are there any issues? Is there something we need to fix? Is there something that you say this and this board says that? Like, kind of work with them and make sure we navigate any issues in that. And
okay, I notice all your board members are expired.
Yes, ma'am.
It's not just a recent expiration.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, the most recent is June of 23. That's over a year, but most of them are well past. Here's one that expired in 2020. Why, if you know, maybe Chairperson can answer this question.
I appreciate the question. We have been asking meeting after meeting after meeting for our chairman, Sean Rogers, our current chairman, Sean Rogers, asked meeting after meeting about the reappointments, and we need to get these reappointments. We need to get these reappointments. So I'm really at a loss of why it's been hung up. I don't know where, but I know from the board standpoint, we have been asking for reappointments ever since. We have a work binder that when we come into the board meeting, that we have the appointments and we have the expiration dates blatant in our face every meeting. So we talk about those and discuss those. And for whatever reason, I don't know, but it's not this board that has not been trying to get the reappointments.
So how long has, well, this goes back, the board appointments, is this just a continuous, I don't know if all the people have been on for a while, or is that expiration, maybe I missed that.
It's a 3-year term, and then you can go one more 3-year term, and then you have to come off.
Okay,
Yes,
I got you. All right, thank you.
Senator Kelly.
Senator Coleman Madison asked several of the questions that I wanted to ask. I think we all know the gravity of the situation here, and it's dire tremendously. With the new executive director, I think that shows an awful lot. I think this Sunset Committee is going to need, I mean, you've laid out some of the things that you're going to do in the future, and I realize you've just had this put in your lap, so to speak. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Okay, nothing like
3 weeks now.
Baptism by fire, right?
Right.
And I'm sure the board understands maybe this missed some signs and things that should have been taken in the past. But I think what the Sunset Committee needs is a rough idea on a timeline. If you've had enough time to wrap your mind around it as to what you foresee, how quick you can get the ship turned around. And what would it look like?
That's a good question. That's the $1 million question. When it comes to, and it depends on which thing we're talking about in here. So the financial stuff, we are working with that. We're hoping like 13th accounting period, all that stuff, working through that, the reversion, that should not be an issue this year. And I can guarantee you, I will be on the phone with the examiner's office, make sure I'm looking at these numbers right, because their reversion is done differently than the general contractor's board reversion. Make sure we get it right and we don't, make a mistake and either don't send money or send money when we shouldn't. I don't think we're going to have that problem. But so that kind of stuff, current to date, I think we're pretty good on the money side of things. As far as the new database that I mentioned in the response, because this is my response, so that's kind of why it is the way it is, because like I said, I can't really answer some of these questions. On the database stuff, all of that, the new stuff should go live where we've got the checks and balances. The database will have rules written in it. So we're going to phase it in. The current schedule right now is to go live with that new database November 1, which will be next Friday. And then we'll have to phase new, as we build it out, kind of take it a piece at a time so that we can get it out there and start to get as many checks and balances in place as we can. Rules, and there's some rules that need to be corrected, that should have been amended, that wasn't. Those will be drafted and reviewed at the November meeting for this board, and then hopefully approved, and then we will start that process that it has to go through, where it has to be published and available for public comment. And so that'll be, that I don't know the exact dates on that timeline. And then obviously with the session coming up, I talked to Senator Coleman Madison and Representative Simpson yesterday about interest that they have in any rule changes and bills and stuff. And so we'll start working with them to have, legislative changes that need to be made here in the next session.
Okay. I think one of the things that has been clear today is there seems to be discrepancies in the previous management's contract and what work was actually performed. Is it a safe assumption the board is going to review that contract and what was and wasn't done?
The previous contract or the future or the
previous contract?
Yes, you brought up a good point a while ago, and I didn't even know about when you asked about did the money get paid back. I don't even know if that's an option, but it's something that we can definitely pursue because I'd like for that. So, and yes, we will look at the contracts, the contract that was in place. I think we have looked and uncovered as much as we possibly could, and moving forward, we, as a board, we know that what to look for and what to not take for granted. I do know, and I can speak for this board, that every one of these members has the public, the general public of Alabama's safety in mind. I know that for a fact. That's why we said yes to serving on this board. It wasn't about as much about the ways. I wasn't familiar with laws, and I wasn't familiar with the I guess the politics side of the industry. But I know that everyone wants to keep the public safe, and I know that they also want to keep the electrical contractors working. And I feel like with our new executive director that we can focus on those things that are important, such as the license renewals, the licensees, getting more licensed people in place. It was one of the findings, and just recently, 6-8 weeks ago, we discussed with another board about how they take their extra money at the end of every year and apply it to. You mentioned it yesterday. Apply it to scholarships. And I didn't even know that was a possibility. I thought that the rule or the law was we had to give that money back, and we found out that, hey, that's not the case. So now that everybody's asking questions and we have our finger on the pulse, we want to take that, we want to figure out the proper way to change that excess money and put it back into scholarships or put it back into the apprenticeship programs like the CICT money that comes through the state. 1% of electrical contractors, most of us on this board, all of us on this board are electrical contractors, pay that 1% into that CICT fund to promote apprentices and to get more people licensed. So we are actively pursuing that, and we definitely want to actively pursue the excessive money becoming part of a way to keep or pour it back into our industry.
Well, that's certainly an excellent response there. I think just as this board is charged with holding your board accountable and transparent, so are you with those work contracts, management contracts, because it's your licensee's money.
That's right.
So I trust that the board will do a deep dive in that and take appropriate action to recover any funds that they're eligible to recover and any action they may need to take.
Okay. Yes, sir. Noted.
All right.
Thank you.
Pringle, you're up. Underwood, you're on deck. Shedd, you're in the hole. And then I will want to hear from their attorney after those questions.
Listen, I want you to know you're not the only licensure board that's having problems. Okay, understand that. You're not being singled out. And I'm sorry y'all had the problems with your management firm, but again, a lot of those licensure boards have problems because of that firm. I think you've got an executive director that's proven that that can run a licensure board. I think you will get them back where they need to be rather quickly. And I like to hear you talk about these scholarships. I'm the only contractor sitting here, and I know how important it is for, we've got a shortage of electricians and plumbers and everything in the professions. I mean, it's hard. I mean, I have a terrible time finding people that are licensed. I got a lot of jacklegs that show up. First thing I ask them, you got a license? They go, well, I'm like, you ain't got a license, do you? You ain't got any insurance. So anyway, I really enjoy hearing you talk about trying to recruit more members. And I understand, you give you your time, you're trying to run your business, and you're trying to keep up with your jobs, and you're giving up your time to come up here and serve. So thank y'all for that. But, I kind of have to say the governor's office has a little culpability in this. She appoints every member of that board. Why was that office not involved in getting these appointments remade? So, I can't lay everything on, there's a lot to go around here, but best of luck to you. And if I can help you, let me know, because it's a monumental undertaking. And I guarantee the Examiner of Public Accounts Office will work with anybody that's trying to do the right thing. So thank you.
Thank you, Representative Pringle. I would like to also say, I mentioned this while ago to the board before we walked in, that we would like to, if I hope I'm not stepping out of line with the board here, but we would like to ask you to put us on another 1 year
I'm pretty sure that's a given, yeah.
Because I'm confident, every board member is confident that this is going to be better next year, this time next year.
Underwood, you're up. Shed, you're on deck.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I just want to kind of reiterate a little bit from yesterday. I know the quality of the electrical contractors in my district, and I know y'all are also the same. You're just from different areas of the state, and so I appreciate your posture and your demeanor in this meeting, because this isn't fun. But I've seen you in agreements to things that have been said, and have taken ownership and accountability going forward. I have full confidence that you'll do the work, and that we'll be in a better place. Everything said on this end was correct. The report is correct, and the inadequacies are correct, and so all that is correct. But at this point, for me, it's more about looking forward about where we're going to go with it. And so I just want to say I appreciate your industry and what y'all do, not only for your areas, but for the entire state. And it matters what you do. It also matters that you've owned this moment like you are. That's the Alabama way, and I appreciate that as well. So we'll go forward with it. And let's just keep working to make it better. All right.
Thank you, Representative Underwood.
Yes, sir.
I think I want to say thank you to each one of you, because I understand that you took away from your job or your business or your work to serve on the board. So I think we need to stop and say thank you for that. I join with Representative Underwood and others that respect you and admire you for taking ownership of this and your attitude toward it. So with that said, I appreciate it very much. Yesterday I think I mentioned the pass-fail rates, and I think we'd like to have a plan to try to address that. And would you just kind of go over the preparation for a person taking these examinations, and what and the Sunset Committee, I think I can speak for most on the committee. We were concerned about the time and money it takes for a person, not only your board, your examination, but all the boards. That's the reason we ask about this. Is a person spends a lot of time and money getting in a position to take an exam and then fail that, and so we're concerned about that. So if you would come up with a plan to try to improve that, or let us know about that, and tell us a little bit about how the preparation is made for a person taking the exam.
There are a couple of different, there's two levels of licenses, the journeyman license and the state contractor's license. The journeyman license requires 8,000 hours to to be eligible of OJTs, on the job training, to be eligible for the exam. We have a 2,000 hour credit for schooling, apprenticeship school, or for training in the field. So it could be 6,000 hours with that 2,000 hour credit to be able to sit for the exam. And the state contractor is the same way. There's a credit for 2,000 hour credit of 8,000 hours that you can take to have 6,000 hours of supervision training, and then 3 years, and then 2,000 hours can be of education in a related electrical field in order to sit for the exam. That's how the rule is in place right now, to give apprentices a long enough time, 3 years, 3 years, which is the 6,000 hours plus 2,000 hours from school to sit for the journeyman exam. We feel like that's enough time that they're qualified or capable of not harming themselves inside of electrical panel. We really do feel strongly about that training and that preparedness to be able to, because what we do is, it's dangerous, it's life-threatening. So we want to make sure that apprentice, man or woman, is prepared for working in the electrical industry. Same way with the state electrical contractor. We want them to have that 6,000, that supervision to make them eligible for their electrical exam, the state electrical contractors exam. Now, as far as the pass-fail rate, there are a couple of exams. We just recently, in the last year, I guess it was, we provide a nationally recognized exam, NASCLA exam, and then an Alabama electrical exam. It's the exam that we've been given for years and years, and the pass-fail rate for that NASCLA exam is higher. Not to get into the weeds, but that is higher, and the other exam is not. But for us being able to take money that we've got in excess and put it into the industry, I'm hoping that we can get more people trained. I see apprentice programs popping up all over the place, and thankful for the CICT money, that's the construction industry money that's being poured in for training, because we're huge. Everybody here, we have trainers actually that sit on the board. We're huge advocates of the training to get these people certified, so that there's journeyman prep classes. There's actually sample tests on our website that people can take in order to help prepare them for that exam. We want them to pass. We definitely want them to pass.
I know you do. We don't want unqualified people in a dangerous situation as well, but you understand where we're coming from.
Yes, sir.
And we need more people out there, as y'all already have said. So thank you for your work.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Mac McCreelis, can he come to the podium right here?
All right, so what we're discussing here is the pass-fail rate and everything. Everybody in here went to high school, some levels of college and things. Everybody's been successful on tests and not successful on tests. It was all about how you prepared. And the thing of it is, with a pass-fail rate, you can set any test up you want to. It don't matter what it is, you're going to have a pass-fail rate. And 99% of it is based directly off of how well they were prepared to take that test. There's all kinds of preparatory material out there for them to do it in both the EC and the journeyman test. So what our ultimate goal is that we get a small sampling of how they can navigate the code book and then general knowledge of the electrical industry. And so if you take in away from your testing, you're going to lower the quality of people you have, if that makes sense. And so in this point, we put our ACs in a place where we get journeymen that's then not qualified, so you're going to get poor workmanship, more complaints on the job sites of how the installations were done.
We have, it is a regular conversation that we talk about how can we bring more people into certification. That we definitely, as I said before, we want more people to be in the industry, and whatever, we don't want to stand in the way of that. We want to be proactive in that, but we also want them to be trained and safe in the process.
Hendon Cootie, please come to the podium.
Yes,
Ms. Cootie, I'm concerned that this board has been horribly taken advantage of. And I want to know, is there legal, how long have you represented this board, please, ma'am?
Approximately 15 years.
So you were there when they negotiated the contract with Smith Warren?
Which contract, ma'am?
Their management contract.
That's renewed every year. So
And
yes,
you
ma'am.
review those contracts on behalf of the board?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm a little shocked that, you know, since you're on retainer and you're there when you've been there for 15 years, so clearly, in my opinion, you've been there since this contract originated and it's negotiated each year, the level at which they've been taken advantage of. And do you have any plans to help them recoup any of this money?
Absolutely. Once the board became aware in early March of 2024 by members on this very committee that things were not as they seemed, the board directed me to help them connect with every agency in state government that could help them right this wrong and find out information. You can imagine at this point, the trust between this board and myself and that current management services company was not to be relied on. No, sir. No, sir. I am so excited about Ms. Lovelace and her commitment and professional leadership. I cannot tell you. But former management appeared not, I have to be very careful what I say, appeared not to be totally transparent in their dealings, especially with money of the board. And Ms. Wilcox, I promise, this board was totally, and I, totally unaware that we owned a vehicle until I asked the state auditors to provide us with a list of property. Nor did I know we had bought a $3,000 executive desk or chairs, which were not solely used by this board. And under the contract, Smith Warren should have provided our furniture and our conference room. So we had to chip away. This board has worked hundreds of hours, chipping away on their own because there wasn't anybody they could trust to say, hey, other than me.
Yeah, you were somebody they should have trusted to give them some advice. That's my point in asking you to come up here. I'm a little
Ma'am, I
didn't
didn't
sad
have
about
the
your
information about what was going on behind the scenes.
I completely disagree with you.
Do you?
You're recognized, Simpson.
Thank you. I completely disagree with you because you said you didn't find it until March of 2024. You were in front of this board last year in 2023, and you were very combative with me last year when I was trying to bring up problems with the managing association, with the percentages of how much that they were getting, with how much of the money that they were taking from the fees that were coming in that went directly to the management association. And that was in the summer of last year, summer of 2023. So let's not say you didn't find out until March of 2024, because you were very combative with me when I tried to bring it to your attention.
And I apologize.
We also have the
lawyer-
situation of this is,
May I?
hang on just a second.
Okay.
And this is the same situation we got into last year. I'm going to finish first.
Yes, sir.
This is a one-year rollover from a report that came out last year that talked about problems that we set it over from a year. That is a concern to me that without this one-year rollover we had, this may not have been found out that everything that went through. I want to make sure that you guys understand, and everybody on the board, I'm looking at you all, you guys are trying to do the right thing. I completely understand that you're trying to do the right thing. I completely appreciate the efforts that you're making. But the appearance of what's going on is the fox is in charge of the hen house. They're determining how much they're going to charge for what management, please, Miss Lovelace. Nothing to do with Miss Lovelace. And this is what we brought up in September or August or sometime in the summer of last year, They were in charge of how much money they were taking from you to determine how much they were going to bid to make the bid for from what they had. They were looking at how much they could get. I could get up to 75. I want to say this was somewhere very high in almost an 80 percentile of the money that you guys brought in that went directly to the Management Association and not to the electrical contractors and not to recruiting and not to the stuff that you're talking about. So this didn't just come up in March because you figured it out. This came up when the report was issued last time when you came in front of this committee last time.
Yes, of course.
Point did you want to make, Ms. Cootie, now that he's completed his?
Yes, ma'am. What I meant about, we didn't.
Close to the mic.
We were not aware of the financial mismanagement until March of 2024, and that's when we started digging into that. We were very aware of the concerns of this committee about the provisional licenses, and we're working to correct that. But again, I can't emphasize enough, the financials that were presented to these board members and to me at every board meeting were inaccurate, showed us to have more money to spend than we had, very much in excess of our income. There was no reason for us to doubt that, as we were told by Keith Warren, that these were state documents.
And I'm going to help you here. We're going to be on the same page here.
Yes, sir.
Your statement and your statement to this committee right now is that the information that was provided to the board was false.
I didn't say false.
Inaccurate.
Sir. Inaccurate and presented in a way to make the board think they had more money. Let me give you the exact example. First sheet of a financial report from Mr. Warren, allocated budget, right here on the top, $920,000. Well, even I thought allocated budget is what we are allocated to spend, and the board operated in that comfort zone that those were our funds to spend. That was not correct, as we learned. You may only spend what you collect, and only in a very odd circumstance would you have $920,000 to spend. That was never pointed out. It was always inferred, yes, that's your money, that's what you can spend, and we're under it. Look how much we're under. We're returning money to the general fund. So I say that it was inferred that there was more money at the board's disposal than there actually was. Yes, sir.
I asked yesterday, and I'm appreciative of the fact that I believe there may be people with the Attorney General's office that are monitoring what we're being said today and what's going on today as far as this investigation. And Ms. Riddle will turn everything over to the Attorney General's office, because what you're talking about is someone, if you're talking about presenting incorrect information to a board and then taking more money than what they should be getting and presenting things to the board and doing things beyond the board, that is something that I absolutely believe the Attorney General's office should be looking into.
Mr. Simpson, may I also state that the kinds of financial, and you'll see this because they're in the board minutes, the financial records that the board was presented were presented in code. And as STARS does or Comptroller or whatever, the board never saw funds that were made out to certain people, you don't see the checks. You know, it's just coded. And of course, as we've talked about, the trust element was there for 25 years. And once it eroded, this board went to work and started digging. And yes, sir, I want to apologize, again, if I may finish my apology, to you and the members of this committee for last year. After 43 years as an attorney, I just automatically go into fight mode, and that's not right. I'm here to help y'all answer questions and to try to answer your questions, not to argue. And I truly, sincerely apologize for my passion last year. It was uncalled for.
As a chairperson, I wish you would have apologized to him last year, but we'll move on. Underwood, you're up. Kelly, you're on deck.
So I just wanted to, I guess, just make it very explicit that when you talk about the financials being, was it inaccurate? Is that the right word?
Sir, it inferred on the top of every financial that we had $920,000 and it was allocated budget.
Yeah, that wasn't my question. My question was that I want to make sure you use the right word because I think
I don't want to be
used a while ago.
misquoted on
No, I
this.
understand. That's why
I really
I was
don't.
taking that slow. Those were the ones those were not the ones provided to you and to us from the public examiner. You were strictly
Oh, no,
talking
sir.
about the internal
Yes, sir.
ones that were provided to
No,
the board
they
on
were
a monthly
no, sir.
basis.
They were not. We were told they were state generated, but they were put in the notebooks by Smith Warren staff.
Okay, I have not seen those, but you said they're in the minutes.
They should be attached to the minutes, sir, and we
so
can certainly.
Yeah, I will. Yeah,
You can get them
I believe you.
from
It's not
Smith
about
Warren.
that.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
sir.
I'm
And there
curious to
may
see what
be
they
some
were.
members
Yeah.
that kept.
Yeah, I've not seen
kept 'em.
those. I did want to confirm, though, which ones financials you were talking about for. I mean, I knew, but I want to make sure everybody else knew that you were not inferring on the public examiner accounts.
Absolutely
Great.
not.
Yeah,
No,
that's
sir.
what I thought.
And I'm not alleging any criminal or illegal activity on anybody. I have no authority. I
Okay.
have no way. I have no foundation.
I understand.
I'm just saying that there was a lot of smoke and mirrors.
Right. And then I guess the other point, just to clarify from Chairman Wilcox's comments a while ago, I think the question that comes to mind is when the contract was reviewed from the management company that had those details broken out. I assume that was broken out in the contract. You know, like the 45,000 or whatever a month. Did it break?
It was
those?
broken out in the response to the RFP.
So
Contract is very short.
Yeah. So I guess the question is when it shows in there the different things that Representative Simpson mentioned, and then when there was a discussion about, well, let's buy a vehicle or let's hire another person, that maybe there should have been a reconciliation between what's already in the contract versus what's being proposed in addition. I think that's where the question is about the advisory role.
Right. And to go to that exact question, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, $5,000 a month could have been inferred by the board as the paralegal fee, because the paralegal was not included in the RFP. But as we see, it was over and above, and they frankly feel like there was double dipping going on, if not intentional, but certainly by mismanagement.
Kelly, you're up. Barfoot, you're on deck.
So,
We're an hour behind schedule, so let's keep that in mind.
Madam Attorney. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Senator.
So, do you attend the Board of Directors meetings?
The board meetings?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So, you've attended all of those meetings?
Most all of them, yes, sir. Zoom, if not in person.
You've reviewed all the contracts with the former management company?
Yes, sir. The board reviewed them and voted that that's what they wanted. It was the only reply that we got to our RFP.
Okay. So the issue I have, and you apologize for your behavior last year, which was warranted, and I thank you for that. But you vigorously defended some of the questions and actions that management company did when we called those into question last year.
I would not do that again, sir.
Yes, ma'am. But in your duty as the attorney representing this board and looking out after their best interest in this process and this management issue going on as long as it has, with the appearance of gross mismanagement, as the attorney representing this group, do you feel like you bear any of the responsibility not to have saw this before now?
I had no way of reviewing Smith Warren's management work product. I have no authority to check up on the administration or the executive director. It's very clear that my contract is limited to advising the board on legal issues when asked. The board and I had no idea what was going on financially as far as this car, the Tahoe, the executive desk, the chairs, the things that were purchased with electrical contractor money. Sir, no, it is not my responsibility to check up on administrative services. I don't even have the wherewithal or the clearance to get into STARS or to get the financial documents that it would take. And more importantly, I don't have the expertise. I am not a financial person at all.
Okay. And you were there, in appearances when the original contract was put in place years ago, correct?
The original, I don't believe I was there with the original. I'm not sure when the original contract. When I came to work as the electrical board's attorney, at the time it was Warren and Company, not Smith Warren, but Warren and Company was the executive director. So I don't know when the genesis of that was.
Okay, so it was still the same company, the name was different. So what are your duties? What is your actual job for the electrical contractors?
At the board's direction, I review complaints about licensees and non-licensees. We have gone from 9 complaints in 2010 to 135 complaints in 2023. You can see that's quite a massive change in consumer complaints. They direct me to look and talk and review the case documents that the investigation has produced, and then to give them options of resolution under the law, how these should be resolved, whether it should go to hearing, whether a cease and desist would be in order, whether a fine would be in order, but the board makes the final decision. They ask me to look at the cases. So 95% of my work, sir, is the complaints that we get from consumers and the public of Alabama and addressing those complaints under our laws and rules.
Okay.
All right, Shed, you're up. Barfoot's declined.
I just want to say to everybody listening and the other boards present and everybody that examiners of public accounts, as uncomfortable as this may be and may seem, the examiners of public accounts did their job, and the Sunset Committee has done our job. So I think that everybody can take comfort in that.
Yeah, and I think the last group that was up here, the speaker said it best with thank you for this. This is heartfelt, sincere. Thank you for the questions. We want to get it right. We all want to get it right. We know you want to get it right because we want to do what's right for the people of Alabama. So I even though the process is painful, and last year I really was scratching my head. I didn't understand because there was a different level of trust there. I didn't understand why in the world is everybody coming at us. That's how I felt last year. Mr. Simpson, I was like, why are all these comments and questions like it felt like we were dodging bullets and didn't know why until we started asking the questions. And Senator Kelly, it was when that State Bill 101 and State Bill 180 came out. They were like, it really drastically affected the electrical industry, and we didn't know anything about it as a board, and we were like, that's when we started asking questions of, oh my goodness, what's happening here? So that was in March, I think, and that's when we were like, what is going on? And the more questions we asked, the more we saw what's in this report. That's when we immediately asked for an audit. We would, hey, come in and show us what we're missing and what we need to fix. So we actually asked for an audit, and we're thankful for it, and because it got us to this process of a new executive director, Ms. Lovelace being our director. And so I want to say all that. I thank you for the process. As difficult as it is, and as much sweat I was fighting off my brow, every one of these guys, thank you for the time that you take. You thanked us a while ago, but thank you for the time that you take, you all, to make sure this gets right, because that's all we want is for it to be right.
All right, any final questions before we go on to the next board? Hearing none, thank y'all for your time. We appreciate you being here, board members.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you.
Speech pathology and audiology, you're up. Veterinary medical examiners, you're on deck. And speech pathology and all following boards, when you come up, Please make sure to introduce your board members and have them stand when their name is called, and let's find out where they're from, please. You have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning. My name is Dr. Lawrence Molt. I was the chair of the board from 2019 through 2 weeks ago when my term, my 2 terms finished up. But because I was the chair for such a long period, they said, why don't you stand up front first? So let me tell you the members of the board that we have here today. Frances Clark is a speech-language pathology member. She represents Congressional District Number 1. Dr. Brady Reeves is a audiology member. She is our new board chairman as of October 11th, and she represents District 7. Dr. Beth Hoven is a audiology member. She represents District 3. Shermitra Payton is a speech-language pathology member. She represents District 5. Kristen Delancey is a audiology member representing District 4. Christina Ford is not here today, but she is a speech-language pathology member for District 6. We also have one consumer member, and that's Summer Macias from District 2. We also have our State Assistant Attorney General, Chris Howell, here today, and our Executive Secretary, Wanda Rawlinson. And our board is 3 speech-language pathologists, 3 audiologists, and 1 consumer member.
Well, thanks you. It looks like you have excellent board participation in coming to this meeting today, so we appreciate that dedication. Do you have anything that you'd like to tell us about your board? I'm anticipating a shorter hearing than our last, so don't mess that up.
I would just pass on. We are blessed in that we have 2 different professions who seem to be incredibly honest practitioners. So our number of complaints is not large, but we act on them very, very quickly and seriously. One of our kind of claims to fame is because all of our funds come from our members, our licensees' fees that they pay, we do our best to return some of that to make their life somewhat better. So we provide grants. So our members have to earn 12 hours of continuing education each year, and so we provide grants to several different state professional groups and universities to help them bring in top quality speakers. I'm a former chair of the National Council of State Boards in these 2 fields, and very few boards do anything like that. So we've been doing that for 40 years and are very, very proud of it.
That's a very good high point to pause your question, or to pause and wait for questions, because we are very proud of boards that reinvest in their industry and help their members. Senator Gavan, you're recognized.
No significant issues, no unresolved significant issues. Good job. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator.
All right, hearing no further comments, we appreciate y'all coming. We appreciate the good job that you're doing, and you get the shining star. If I was passing out little stars, y'all get a star, the first one for today. Thank you.
Want a cupcake?
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
You can have Pringles. Okay, now we have veterinary medical examiners. Y'all have one speaker. So in this order, we're going to hear from your board. As I've instructed the other boards, I want you to introduce your board members that are here, have them stand when their name is called, and either them or you announce where they're from. And then after you give your opening statements, we're going to hear from the one speaker that is requested to speak on your behalf, and that would be Mr. Joseph Hanks has requested to speak on this board. All right, you have the floor, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for your opportunity. Just want to tell you, we have 6 veterinarians on our board, 1 LVT and 1 consumer person. And I don't know what district they come from. We have a hard time getting people to serve on our board, so districts may not matter, but maybe you'll know where they are. I'm Dr. William Berry. I'm from Ardmore, Alabama. David Tyree is our vice chairman. Ms. Glover is from Greensboro, Alabama. She's our treasurer. Jonathan Zeiger is from Pale City. Charles Hart is from Trussville. Thomas Fell is from Mobile. Lisa Hethcox is from Altoona. And Ms. Dr. Hubbard, Tamisha Hubbard, is from Bessemer, Alabama. I'd like to tell you I got about 6 things I'd like to tell you what we do. We oversee 1,800 veterinarians and 450 licensed veterinary technicians. We oversee the Certified Euthanasia Technician Program. That's technicians that are lay people who work at the animal shelters. We oversee the state-controlled substances registration, which you have to have from the state before you can get a DEA number. We have a wellness program for impaired veterinarians that we use more than I'd like to, but we don't have a huge amount of problems. We have the registered animal euthanasia facilities. We have to inspect them once a year, and there's 39 of them. We have 704 hospitals at the present time in the state of Alabama. There's probably more. I know there's 3 or 4 more in my area going open. We inspect those every 3 years. In the last 2 years, we've investigated 55 complaints that have been submitted to us. Anything else? Or when do you want to let the person that wants to speak?
Well, I'll call them up.
Okay.
But I want to ask you a question. Well, first of all, let me make a statement before I get past that. My veterinarian is Dr. Andrew Duke. I have been availing myself. We've been putting up with each other for over 40 years. He probably has more to put up with than me, because I've called him from Montgomery, and he'll say, is this your daughter? Who's asking this question? You and your daughter. I was like, who the blankety blank do you have on the phone? And so he and I have a great relationship. Even saw him this Saturday. So I want to say Dr. Andrew Duke's name because he was honored with Veterinary of the Year this year. I don't know that y'all voted on it, but I know your association probably did that, and I wanted to give a hearty second to that, and I've been voting him #1 for 40 years. Now next, I had a complaint that came up several years ago about portability of prescriptions. When humans get a prescription from their doctor, they're able to take that to CVS, their local trusted pharmacist, or any other retailer. When I asked about this a few years back, I was told that the board was going to address that y'all did not want me to do any legislation on that. My personal veterinary will give me my prescription, or he'll fill it. Generally, I want to fill it right there because I want to get my sick animal home and treat them. But my constituent had, I want to say it's blood pressure, it's not that, but he had something that was a repetitive monthly medication that could have been received for $11 from a local pharmacist. The price was much higher. What have y'all done to address those consumers' concerns and my particular constituent?
We talked about it, but I don't know that we've done anything different. There are states that are requiring you to to give a prescription, say if you get your dog, say heart trouble, which is probably what your constituent had. You got 3 drugs that you normally, at least at our hospital, you would do that. And so that's, you'd have to write a written prescription for them to carry to Walmart.
Correct.
Who actually wants us to get out of the pharmacy business altogether. And they own Chewy. And so it would cause us to have to do a lot of extra. I try to charge my clients where they have no reason to go online, no reason to go to Walmart, CVS, Rite Aid. Now whether or not we've addressed that, and I remember that case. I don't remember specifics, but I remember that.
Commissioner Connie Hudson.
I don't remember the name. I just remember she was wanting to do that. And some mornings, just for an example to show you how much trouble that is if we're going to write prescriptions, we see things on our, like we have a Facebook, several pages. Every morning I have to approve 20 prescriptions. Every morning they're doing that. Prescriptions online or whatever, either they're doing it or their practice manager or somebody there, and it takes away from the treatment of getting started maybe on an emergency case. I mean, one woman said she had 18, 20 a day. My gosh, that's a lot of time. And so maybe we should automatically do it. It's just going to cause a little bit. And I'll say this, in my practice, and I can say that only from mine, I try to price my stuff so there's no excuse to do it. I keep flea products that are prescription, keep all that stuff to try to keep them from having to go to Chewy. And then, but a lot of people love it. That's the way it is. But whether we've addressed it specifically, I don't know. Have we? Do you remember? Olivia? This is our attorney, Olivia Martin.
They just asked me to come up here, but I also...
Get closer to the microphone, please, ma'am.
My name's Olivia Martin, and I buy a lot of prescriptions for my dogs. And the really nice thing about getting them from the veterinarian is they come in the right sizes.
They called their attorney up for that. All righty.
I'm here as a consumer.
Yeah. Like I said, for convenience sake, yes, of course, 9 times out of 10. But the repetitive medicine and in these tough economic times, I understood at the time that it was best practices from the National Veterinary Association that you do give your customers
those options.
Your furry animals and your client, their human companions, that option. I'm with you. It's just best for convenience sake and if you can make it affordable. But I do want to tell you that is upsetting that I was told that was going to be, and I'm going to take it up with the person that told me that y'all were going to do that because now he is not a man of his word. I'm not going to say his name because that was too strong of a statement, but I hope he's listening, and I know he knows who he is.
This is a personal thing with me, not necessarily board. I supplement my income by selling drugs at somewhat profit.
Right.
And they're not all marked up 100 or 200%. Some people do, but I'm trying to do that. And what happens if I quit supplementing my income? My exam fee's like $60, but if I quit supplementing my income with all those drugs that I send out, mail out, carry out, put in the mailbox and all that kind of stuff, then my exam fee's going to probably double. You're going to come in there and talk to us 15, 20 minutes and pay $130 instead of one, because we supplement our income. That's just another, that doesn't overdo the idea that you can get up in the middle of the night in your pajamas and order it from Chewy and they'll send it to you, or Pet Meds or all those. So I understand your concerns. It just bothers me.
Right, and I am cognizant that you're small businesses and that you're professionals, and that, as I understand it, since COVID and during COVID, veterinary practice became exponentially tougher. I've heard that there is an oncoming shortage of veterinarians. And the other disturbing thing that I heard was that the suicide rate amongst veterinarians is climbing at a rate that is shocking.
There's a thing called Not One More, NOW or something, and they keep up with how many commit suicide. I mean, I don't know what you do about that. We have in my practice, I'm extremely busy, and I'm not being able to hire any veterinarians because they don't want to see but 20 people a day, and we need to see about 40 per piece most days, and they want to make more money, work less time, and see 20 people a day.
Sounds like young lawyers.
Well, I think it's probably nationwide, but we just got to. I mean, I don't. I've been out 50 years, or next summer, and I'm just amazed at how many people think you can accumulate what I've accumulated by working 4 days a week. Hell, that doesn't work.
You're amongst friends.
Night, Christmas, I guess I'm getting off the subject, and I know we need to move on. Riding in the front end of a tractor, front end loader bucket to an island to treat a cow on Christmas Day. I don't know if we can get anybody to do that. And our terrible people, we have nobody to do large animal. And then I'm paying for mine. I limp, and I've got 2 joints so far replaced. So I've gotten off the subject, but any other questions?
Well, I just want your board to know, I mean, you're all here, you got great participation, that it is allowable for you to use your funds to help your industry.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's initiatives, when I heard about the suicide rate, and not from my veterinarian, God bless him, but I've understood that there's a veterinarian here in Montgomery that recently passed away at their own hand. I know that we have one struggling in Mobile, Alabama, and the state of Alabama, from all our leadership, from our House of Representatives, we're concerned about mental health in Alabama. So I bring that because it matters to us. Veterinarians matter to us. And I wanted to use this forum to see, if your board could look at anything that you could do to support your industry. That is a part of an allowable funds to support your industry. And I know you'll have your legal attorney let you know amongst those guidelines. But I think that a help program might be something that y'all want to look at.
That's certainly not out of the realm of possibility.
You got somebody behind you who wants to be heard on this, yeah?
Oh, this is our executive director.
Yes, ma'am, we do. We have the wellness program. So it's Dr. Jerome Williams is over it. We have a contract with him to perform that. And so anytime that we know, or if any of the veterinarians out in the field know that somebody has a problem, whether it's a veterinarian or a licensed veterinary technician, if they call us, we immediately get in touch with Dr. Williams, or they know to get in touch with Dr. Williams. So we send out little magnets in our license renewals about the wellness program, what he offers. So we do have that program in place. Unfortunately, and I had one I thought was a very good friend, and I got called on a day off, letting me know that she OD'd. I had no idea, none whatsoever. The problem is you don't know what they're dealing with until you hear that. And it's very stressful on them, and especially the younger ones, because they've not been in the business that long. And it is very stressful on them, but we do have the wellness program. Yes, ma'am.
All right, well, in private, I'm going to pass you a name and make sure that y'all are helping.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
All right, now I think we'll take a moment and have the speaker come up, and then you can come up and address their concerns, please, sir. All right, do we have Joseph Hanks available to come up and speak? Mr. Hanks, you have 3 minutes. We appreciate you being here. This is the People's House. So please give us your remarks.
Yeah, my name is Joseph Hankus. I live in Helena, Alabama. I guess I feel a little outweighed here. Didn't expect everybody to be here. I guess I didn't know what to expect. I'll just go back to, I filed a complaint with the board a couple of years ago when my dog passed away due to malpractice and misdiagnosis with a veterinarian in Bessemer. And I'm just going to, a couple of years ago, I made a presentation at the board. I guess it was last spring or something like that. I don't remember exactly. But the letter I got back from them after the case was closed, this is their letter that they wrote to me. This is how it began, I guess. Dear Mr. Hankus, this is in response to your complaint against the veterinarians, I don't have to mention them, of Bessemer, Alabama. The investigative team has completed its investigation, has thoroughly reviewed your complaint and all records and statements made regarding this matter. The board, upon recommendation of the investigative team and after examining all the medical records pertaining to the treatment and procedure for Annie Mae Hankis, which was my dachshund, the board has dismissed the matter against the doctors with a letter, a quote, letter of concern being issued to these said doctors, as there was no substantiated findings of any violations of the Alabama Veterinary Practice Act. For one, and then there's another letter that I wrote to my state representative, Lee Holsey, but it specifically says in their bylaws that they have to keep, that the veterinarians have to keep very good records and accounting of everything that occurs with a patient. And this is definitely not what happened in my case. So I wrote to Representative Holsey, and it said it was questionable. The reason I'm writing a letter regards a questionable decision made by the board concerning the death of my dog, Annie. She died due to negligent malpractice from an attending veterinarian in Alabama Veterinary Facility. Everyone adored her, and us. It was quite a blow to my family, and especially to myself as I live alone. Annie was my twice daily walking partner and hiking, riding, social companion. Countless times she was my inspiration when I was just not feeling up to going out. She was only 6 years old when she passed. I know this is malpractice due to inadequate care because I come from a family of highly respected general practice and certified surgical veterinarians, of which some of these gentlemen here were actually taught by one of them. And these veterinarians were all in agreement she was diagnosed and received inadequate pre- and post-operative care. This event follows a long line of mishaps with this vet practice that has a track record in my immediate community of insufficient care of pet companions. So I filed the case with the Alabama Board of Veterinary Medical Examiners.
Your time is over, sir. Can you wrap it up with one sentence?
Yeah, my basic points is that there's no transparency or accountability to the public. These letters of concerns are not made known to the complainants. The contents aren't made known. To me, I don't think this is even legal. I think it should be published, at least made known to the complainants or the public at large.
Well, I do want to express on behalf of the Sunset Committee our condolences for the loss of your loved one. I can tell it still profoundly affects you.
Well, the board is made up of veterinarians, so you've got the fox guarding the hen house. They're designed to protect the industry, the vet industry. My brother's one of the veterinarians I spoke with, and my father's the other one. And there's another gentleman that used to serve on this board for years, and I had all their input. So, I didn't realize that y'all still had practices, some of y'all. I thought y'all were either semi-retired or whatever.
Okay, excuse me, we're gonna cut you off there. I do have a question from Senator Coleman Madison.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mine is more of a comment because I do apologize, but I feel your pain. I had Alaskan Samoyed husky dog, and it's Beethoven, my companion, and so I feel your pain. And there was nothing wrong with Beethoven. Took him to the vet just for a regular routine checkup, and the vet called and he said, "I need you to come down." I didn't think anything about it. I thought, he says, "Well, we've got some bad news," and I thought, well, the worst thing, maybe you found he had worms or something. And you could have just knocked me down when he told me, said, "Your dog passed away."
Well, that's real similar to what mine happened.
And there was absolutely nothing wrong with him. And when I went back to look at him, he was just head down, just very peaceful. Mm-hmm. And I often wondered about that. And I don't know what happened. I didn't request an autopsy or anything like that. But and because of that, in that instance, it has I've not gotten another pet because that just,
I haven't either.
the pain is still there, and I feel yours is still
Well, it's
there.
not just the pain, but, you know, the thing if they're going to do this as a part-time thing, it needs to be taken more seriously. The board
And I
members-
imagine that they do. It's just that in the medical profession, I mean, while it is a science, it is not an exact science, and we don't know. It happens in medical practices. I've had family members the same thing. It just, things happen and we don't
well,
know.
a lot of people consider their pets as family members.
Yes, but.
And it's not just, you know, things just have to change with the board, how it's made up, how they're appointed. The bylaws need to be updated. And the veterinarians that I know that have been involved with this completely agree with me.
Right. I
Okay,
understand.
we're going to go, thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for coming here today, and we appreciate you for giving the input. Now I'd like to hear from the board.
Mr. Hankins' case was investigated by the board that we do for every case. Each board member is assigned cases, and we did, I don't remember the specifics. I know the dog was very sick. I do remember that. I mean, you know, we see so many cases, it's hard to remember the specifics of either one, and I understand, you know, we have it. We have problems. But if the veterinarian had done anything in violation of the Practice Act or the standard of care, in our opinion, we would have done more than a letter of concern. Now, but that's about probably all I need to say in a public forum.
Okay, members, we're open for questions. All right. Oh, Pringle, you recognize?
I wanted this mobile veterinary clinic. So right now, if you have a mobile clinic, it's got to be based at a brick and mortar. Did I read that correctly?
Pretty much so. Yes.
Correct me but if you work on large animals, seems like it'd be much more efficient for you to have a mobile veterinary clinic that.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can answer it.
That's a little bit confusing.
On the large animals, you can have a mobile unit, and you have a mobile unit, but you also have like a base, like where all your files are kept, where your prescribed drugs are kept. So that's a difference. The small animal, you know, you really, unless you have an elderly person that needs the animal put to sleep and they can't get the animal in, then a veterinarian can go out and administer drugs to put the animal down. Unfortunately, that has to happen. But in the small animal world, you can't, I mean, you can take the x-ray machines out, but the x-ray machines are big. They're like the humans in the hospitals. So you can't take that out in the field. So with the large animal, you have portable x-ray machines you can take out. So that's where there's a difference. The brick and mortar is associated with, the mobile is associated with brick and mortar in the small animal setting. But the large animal, you just have to have a base to have your files kept and your prescribed drugs.
I just, one of the board members talked about they should be allowed to have mobile.
I'm not sure which, that's on that survey,
Significant
I
issues,
guess.
it's the first one.
One of you guys?
Online pharmacies.
That was on the survey, correct?
Yeah, I just wanted
You
to say
guys were given a survey, and one of you answered, it should have been, that was you, okay.
This is Dr. Tyree. He ran a mobile practice,
Yeah.
primarily large.
Yes, I was in mixed practice for about 20 years. I sold the small animal portion and went to a large animal mobile practice. But even with those mobile units on your vehicles, you can't store all your pharmaceutical inventory on a truck. So you've got to have a physical location, number one, for your pharmaceutical storage, for your records, for a place to develop radiographs, because unless you're using digital radiography, when you go to a farm visit and take those radiographs, then you're going to have to go back and develop them. Most people now use digital, so that's not as big a deal, significantly more expense, which some veterinarians can't do. But you sometimes have to make multiple trips for that type of thing. So that's why there's a brick and mortar facility needed. It may not necessarily have to be an open for business facility, but a home base.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other further questions?
Let me make one statement that I alluded to. We're having problems getting people to volunteer to serve, and so we asked Like now, if you get a relief veterinarian, say you're a single practitioner and you get a relief veterinarian, if you can find one, you're looking at $800 a day. And before we got our little $200 raise, you got $200 and practice had to shut down for that day. So there's nobody, at least individual practitioners, not going to want to do that. And we asked for 6, which was kind of in between, and the legislature said that we didn't need that. But you can't hire a relief veterinarian for less than $800. You might, but I don't think you can. I paid $8 the last time I used one, and finding anybody to take your place while you're gone. And I didn't mean to take any more time.
No, that's applicable to this situation. So you would like in your sunset legislation for y'all's fee to be raised?
I mean, we asked for 6. The committee said we didn't need it. We're self-supporting. We have the money to do that. We're not going to take away from any programs that we have if we were to get 6. 8 would be better, and hopefully it would make it a little easier. You're still going to lose money because you get 3 cases you got to investigate. That whoever it is, Mr. Hankins is mine, and then you're going to spend time besides just coming to the meetings. And then, we usually meet at 9 to 4. Sometimes we get out a little early if we don't have a lot of complaint cases. I just wanted to put that out there.
No, that's good. Like I said, that's part of this process, so I appreciate you bringing that up.
And hopefully we're doing a pretty good job. I think our board does a good job for all they have to do for 5. They just have 5 members.
Well, everything except not addressing a complaint that I had.
Yeah, and by the way,
we're keeping count.
And by the way, Andy Duke and our classmates.
Pardon me?
Andy Duke and our classmates.
Oh, that's great.
So he's going to soon be out 50 years. But I think he's a little younger than I am, but whatever.
He represents himself. I think his time on the Pops Orchestra, on the Symphonic Pops Orchestra, keeps him young.
Well, he's amazing to me because I get his Facebook stuff, so he's amazing.
Yeah, me too. Representative Shedd.
In respect of time, I want to call your executive director and talk about the pass-fail rates for veterinary technicians. So we'll talk about that. We'll have some questions about it, but it'd be fine for us to talk on the phone.
Okay, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Well, and like I said, those are programs that you can have scholarship programs because I think veterinarians need all the help they can get, the support personnel. So, yeah, that's appropriate. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
We appreciate y'all's participation and taking your time out here today. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, sir. Optometry, you're up. Onsite wastewater, you're on deck. In case y'all weren't here before, when you come up, please introduce your board. Let us know where they're from.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Fred Wallace. I'm the Executive Director of the Alabama Board of Optometry, and I'd like to introduce our board members here. First is Dr. Ashley Williams from Selma. Dr. Williams is the president of our board. Dr. Norman Johnson from Scottsboro. Norm is our vice president. Dr. Howard Day from Birmingham. Howard is our secretary-treasurer. Our other board members are Dr. Tim Nichols from Gunnersville, Dr. Rob Pate from Auburn, Dr. Mazen Sahani from Mobile, and our newest appointee at his second board function, ready to answer all the hard questions, is Dr. Caleb Gardner from Greenville, Alabama. Also with us is our attorney, Mr. Wallace Mills of Montgomery. We represent the board, regulates the 915 doctors of optometry in the state. We appreciate what you do, and I appreciate what they do, all in the idea of protecting the citizens of the state of Alabama. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about the auditor's report or more specifically some of the items we'd like you to consider in updating our law.
All right, members, do you have any questions? Senator Stewart.
Madam Chairwoman, I thank you for this opportunity. I just want to share my affinity for this board because I have 2 constituents on the board. I have Dr. Caleb Gardner, my friend. He's from Greenville, as well as Dr. Ashley Williams from Selma. So thank you for serving our state.
Duly noted. Any questions? Well, that's a good sign. So thank y'all so much for being here. We appreciate your time and your dedication to your profession. You've trained up Dr. Mark Shirey very well. We appreciate him in the House of Representatives. Call him if you need anything. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We appreciate being here. Again, if you would give some consideration to the non-controversial law changes, housekeeping type things we've put in some notes I think you've received, we would certainly appreciate that. And I'll pick up my star later.
Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
Y'all have a good day. Safe travels. On-site wastewater, you're up. Please make sure to introduce your board members and where they're from. Thank you.
Good morning, committee. My name is Melissa Hines. I'm the Executive Director of the Alabama Onsite Wastewater Board. I'm humbled and honored to serve the onsite sewage industry and to be here with you today to speak on behalf of the AOWB. We have joining us today Mr. Craig Gall, who serves as in our manufacturer seat, and he is from Saginaw. Next, we have Mr. Alan Aston. He's the chairman of the board, holds a pumper seat on the board, and he is from Phoenix City. Mr. David Maston, he serves as vice chairman of the board and holds an installer seat and is from Montgomery. Then I have Miss Melanie Bogan of Montgomery. She holds the regulator seat on the board. Dr. Hal Pate, he holds the consumer seat on the board and is from Lowndes County. My other 4 board members couldn't be with us today due to schedule conflicts. I also have with us today the president of the Alabama Onsite Wastewater Association, Mr. Mark Geiger. So he represents the industry trade association.
I'd like to interrupt you to announce we have a major conflict. Mr. Harold Pate is the cousin of Mary Ruth Davis.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Well, Mary Ruth.
She just wanted to give a shout out to her cousin.
Okay. We also have staff joining us today as a couple of members of the trade association as well. Just going to briefly go over what the AOWB does and address the issues, if that's okay. The purpose of the Alabama Onsite Wastewater Board is to examine, license, and regulate individuals engaged in the manufacture, installation, or servicing of onsite sewage systems in the state of Alabama. The onsite sewage systems range from standard conventional septic tanks to cluster onsite sewage systems. The board was created to establish the qualification levels for those engaged in the installation, pumping, and manufacturing of onsite sewage systems as well. Our licensees are trained by the board, by board-approved sponsors of first-time education and are examined by the board. The board extends maximum effort and goes to great lengths to ensure that sponsors provide proficient education to the individuals attending the training. The board updates outlines of what the individuals are to be examined on annually as the industry and regulations change. Sponsors then submit coursework to the board for approval. As our licensees hold a very important role in the state of Alabama by maintaining the public health's welfare regarding sewage, the board goes above and beyond to assist licensees with industry issues they may encounter. They may have issues with their local health department. They may have issues with installations. Our board is very engaged in assisting installers and pumpers when they have issues out in the field and they need assistance, and I'll refer them to a board member. We do strive to maintain a good working relationship with the Alabama Department of Public Health, as our licensees are codified to follow the regs of the ADPH. Licensees are kept well informed through email blasts of upcoming training, licensure renewal, bonds, etc. I do attend all of the first-time training courses as well as the continuing ed classes that are held to update licensees and to show support in what they do, as well as update the industry on upcoming projects. The Alabama Onsite Wastewater Board licensees are regulated and respected, highly, rightly deserved. I don't know why I'm so nervous talking to y'all.
I know, and so let me calm you down.
I usually am talking to my industry, and
generally it's because you care. When you're
Yeah.
nervous, it's because you care, and
Okay.
it shows.
I'm
so I'm
sorry.
going to cut you off here because you're doing a good job on your board.
Okay.
And I don't want you to wade into some area that's going to.
Okay.
But I got Representative Simpson wants to ask a question.
Yes, sir.
One of the first things they teach us in trial practice is if you're winning, you don't have to say much.
Okay. Well, I'm winning today. I hope. Okay, so I'll just
Hold off for questions. Yeah, just pause your comments, and then if there's no questions, then you can leave, and then I'll declare you the winner. But
Oh, okay.
All right, Senator Stewart, you're up, and Shed, you're next.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, for the recognition. We engaged in this, Ms. Hines, and I thank you for your correspondence last year.
Thank you for remembering.
Yes, and I know there's some follow-up that we have to do, but I'm still taken aback that there is no representation, black representation, specifically from the Black Belt, who are disproportionately affected by the wastewater crisis here. And a lot of it is because you have a lot of septic tanks that were installed incorrectly. And so for me, it's important to have someone with the lived experiences, because it's not lost on me that the state has made unprecedented investment in our wastewater crisis. But what about all of the years when there was minimum and no investment? And I know that has nothing to do with you.
Yes, sir.
But I'm bringing it home that it's important to have those voices who are living in these communities to be decision makers, and to be able to espouse self-determination in their own communities.
Senator Stewart, if you will recall, at the last sunset, Dr. Hal Pate had just been appointed to our board, and he is from Lowndes County.
My constituent, and I want to be customary.
I went above and beyond what I could possibly do to get a minority in any county in the state of Alabama, not just Lowndes County. I had 3 over at the appointing authority's office, and the day before sunset, I was called and said, I don't know what happened, but Dr. Pate has been appointed to the board. Now, I can only go so far to do what I can do. I have tried. For years, I have tried.
Well,
and it's all up to the appointing authority at the end of the day.
Well, please count me as an ally, as an advocate. Let's work together.
Yes, sir.
To find a solution to this finding. You have my commitment, and I'm willing to engage with whoever I need to ensure that there's a remedy to this issue.
Okay.
Text me anytime.
I will.
Or call me.
Okay.
Or email me.
Yes, sir.
Representative Shedd, you recognized?
I just want to say what I said yesterday in the meeting. This board has come a long, long way since I don't remember when it was, but it's some time ago. It was, in fact, one vote away from being sunsetted. So
yes, sir.
Tremendous work has been done, and I commend you.
Thank you.
Any further questions of this board? Pro Tem, you're recognized.
Mr. Pate, can I talk to you in private after this?
Sure. Yes, sir.
Do you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Would you like me to address the significant findings, or?
No, I think, the committee read those and reviewed those yesterday.
Okay.
Unless anybody has any other further questions? All righty. Thank y'all so much. Appreciate you being here.
He's in Lowndes County on this. I won't talk to him about that. What is up with y'all and Chappie? They love it.
Did you want it or no? No, it's just like the white folks here.